Welcome, all wrists, and welcome to another comparison. I'll be focusing on the similarities and differences between the Black Bay 58 and the Pelagos 39. So if you're looking for a more in-depth review about each watch, be sure to check out my reviews. Both of these watches are timepieces from the same manufacturer, but from different families within Tudor's catalogue, and clearly resemble their respective lines through their design and materials used. They're both dive watches, but there are things which influence their purpose. Each have their own set of pros and cons, and I'll be discussing how they stack up against each other. Here are the dimensions and specs. Both watches have a case diameter of 39mm. The Black Bay 58 has a lug-to-lug of 47.5mm and lug width of 20mm versus a lug-to-lug of 47mm and lug width of 21mm on the Pelagos. The thickness of these watches are extremely close, with 11.9mm on the 58 and 11.8mm on the Pelagos. Both share 200 meters of water resistance with screw-down crowns and have the same power reserve of 70 hours from essentially the same movement. The only difference being a slightly larger size on the 58's MT5402 caliber to accommodate a display caseback on other Black Bay models. Right away, there's a lot to talk about when looking at the dials, and protecting them are their crystals. A boxed sapphire for the Black Bay 58 and a flatter sapphire on the Pelagos. The Black Bay 58 presents a much more familiar layout with its circle hour markers compared to the square and boxy shape found on the Pelagos 39. You'll also notice the Black Bay incorporates polished loom-filled markers, a stark contrast to the solid blocks of loom on the Pelagos. The shape and polished elements gives the Black Bay an elegant look, while the Pelagos depicts a more rugged appearance, and both tie in very well with their hands. They share the same snowflake style handset, but are framed to match their respective hour markers, with polished hands on the Black Bay and white frames on the Pelagos. Now looking at the text, the Black Bay has a slightly subtle approach by utilizing a silver color, reducing its contrast and giving it a lighter look, whereas the Pelagos adopts white text for maximum contrast. The Pelagos also includes an added line of text in red to really emphasize its bloodline. This small touch of color adds a huge amount of character and interest to its dial, and to me, makes it much more interesting to look at than the dial of the Black Bay. Each dial is bordered by a minute track, and even this is done differently. The Black Bay has a printed track, while the Pelagos uses a chapter ring. The printed look presents a cleaner look and allows for a slight touch of sheen via the rehort, which works well with its indices. The chapter ring on the Pelagos hides the rehort, giving it a darker look and maintains the absence of reflective surfaces on the dial. However, there is something interesting about the Pelagos. Compared to the matte dial on the Black Bay, the dial of the Pelagos is radial brushed with a very subtle sunburst finish, making up for the lack of metal elements. Both dials look great and both flow well with their bezels. When it comes to the bezels, they both share the same font, but it's slightly larger on the Pelagos due to its wider bezel insert. The Pelagos does have one shorter marker to the right of its integrated loom pip, and the Black Bay is consistent with markers of the same size with an applied loom pip. The materials used are different. Aluminium for the Black Bay, ceramic for the Pelagos. The ceramic will be much more durable, and I like what Tudor has done here with a radial finish, retaining the non-reflective nature of the Pelagos and matches the radial finish on its dial. The bezels themselves also differ, as we find a slim, polished coin edge on the Black Bay and a more thicker, aggressive bezel on the Pelagos. Visually, they are cohesive with their dials. The polished bezel adds to the Black Bay's collection of polished borders, and the sharp brushed teeth adds to the sharp cornered lume plots and muted look of the Pelagos. Function-wise is where the bezel construction really shines for the Pelagos. Its thicker profile and deep teeth make it much easier to turn, while the thin bezel on the Black Bay makes it a little finicky. Both have amazing tactile feedback and are a joy to turn, but it's much better on the Pelagos, simply due to how easy it is to grip. Moving on to the case, this is where I feel everything is tied together. Just like the dial and bezel, the Black Bay features polished bevels and sides, giving it a touch of flash, while the Pelagos continues its rugged theme with an all-brushed finish. If we look closely, the beveled edges on the Pelagos are wider than those on the Black Bay, just like their bezels, giving it a more pronounced shape. And speaking of pronounced, the Pelagos has probably the most differentiating thing between the two watches: crown guards. They may seem like an insignificant addition, however, they have a massive impact on the look and feel of the watch. The absence of crown guards on the Black Bay 58 follows an elegant theme, whereas the crown guards on the Pelagos give it a sporty edge and presents a tool-driven notion. The lines are sharp and transition beautifully into the beveled edge for a flowing yet aggressive look. They make all the difference to the overall appearance, making the Pelagos 39 distinct and separating itself from the Black Bay. The materials used here are steel for the Black Bay and titanium for the Pelagos. The Black Bay remains traditional, whereas the Pelagos leans into a more utilitarian approach. Its lighter construction affords it added comfort, and its completely brushed finish helps to hide scratches and wear. The polished components of the Black Bay give it a more versatile look, but in turn attracts scratches much easier. The bracelets are where the two watches solidify their identity. The Black Bay 58's bracelet evokes vintage themes with its false rivets, staggered taper, and flanking details, contrasting the more modern oyster-style bracelet found on the Pelagos. To take it further, the Pelagos includes Tudor's T-fit clasp, fit for the modern world with its on-the-fly adjustment system, diver's extension, and contemporary design. In terms of comfort, both feel very similar on the wrist. The smaller clasp on the Black Bay reduces bulk. However, the Pelagos still wears quite well despite its rather long clasp. Its bracelet may seem to have a sleeker feel due to its smooth taper, but in reality, the staggered nature of the Black Bay is not noticeable at all during wear. The end links also differ slightly, where the Pelagos begins its articulation earlier than the Black Bay, but doesn't really do much in the grand scheme of things due to their already compact size. The Black Bay slightly edges out the Pelagos in terms of comfort, mostly due to the clasp. However, the Pelagos far outweighs the Black Bay's bracelet in terms of function. When we talk about strap changes, the 20mm lug spacing on the Black Bay is a far better measurement, as it opens the watch to a larger variety of options compared to the 21mm spacing on the Pelagos. Both watches represent different things. The Black Bay 58 has an obvious vintage influence, whereas the Pelagos aligns itself in the modern world while maintaining sleek proportions. To me, the Black Bay 58 was designed to look nice. Its aesthetics came before its function, and it's a damn good looking watch. The Pelagos is a great looking timepiece, but it has more of a tool watch approach where function seemed like a priority and aesthetics were a bonus. Deciding between the two can be quite the challenge, as they're both similar yet so different at the same time. Let me know which one you would go with. Thank you for watching the video. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it and consider subscribing for more watch content. I'll see you in the next one.